Welcome in, everybody, to the Flagship Podcast. We are post-game from Texas's 52-10 win over Louisiana-Monroe in the season opener. Number 1, Alabama, up next, coming to DKR a week from Saturday, along with College Game Day, Taylor. Of course, I am Chip Brown of Horns 24/7, joined as always by the managing editor of Horns 24/7, Taylor Estes. I'm so excited about talking about actual football that I forgot to introduce us, Taylor. That's not good. But how about game day coming for Alabama? And Fox is broadcasting the game. So Joel Klatt and Gus Johnson and the Fox Big Noon kickoff show will be in Austin for Texas, Alabama. Everybody's going to be here, Taylor. And it is after midnight on Saturday, after Texas's season opening win. And Quinn Ewers just announced that his car was towed during the game. He posted on his social media, "How'd I get towed during the game?" So
those Texas parking and transportation services people are brutal. Like, I mean, how many times we pay for our parking permits, like being media, and it's not cheap, and we don't get great permits. And I'd never had a parking ticket in my entire life until I started parking on campus covering Texas football with a paid for media parking permit. And it's like, I park exactly where they tell us to. And it's usually on average 3 times a season, at least, I get parking tickets. So Quinn
and
Ewers,
the reason that is significant is because Taylor went to Texas.
Yeah.
And was a student there and did not get a parking ticket while a student.
Never.
But now that she's paying big bucks to park on campus, we're getting parking tickets. But hey,
yeah,
that is neither here nor there. Enough about us. Let's get to the Longhorns. And the Longhorns did what they were supposed to do, Taylor. They handled business against an overwhelming opponent that they paid $1 million to come to Austin and get handled by the Texas Longhorns. And I think there are a few things that are significant. Obviously, there was a lot of excitement and anticipation heading into this game because you got a new quarterback in Quinn Ewers, one of the highest rated recruits, perfect rating as a quarterback in that 2021 class. And then you had 2 freshman starters on the offensive line. You had a new look Texas defense with Pete Kwiatkowski getting assistance from former TCU coach Gary Patterson. So there's a lot to get into. And of course, on special teams, they score the first touchdown of the season. Special teams puts the first points on the board as Deshaun Jameson blocks a punt and Keelan Robinson picks up the ball off the turf, runs it in for a touchdown. Steve Sarkisian said in his post game that Jeff Banks, the special teams coordinator, told Deshaun Jameson, "You're going to block this punt if ULM lines up the way we think they're going to line up." And sure enough, I mean, Deshaun Jameson was on the punter's foot. The ball went nowhere, and Keelan Robinson just picked it up and ran it in for the first points of the season, Taylor.
Yeah, I think that most Texas fans probably would not have expected the first points of the season for Texas to come on special teams, especially.
Who had that prop bet?
Yeah, exactly. And especially the fact that Deshaun Jameson was, instrumental in special teams putting up the first points, and he wasn't returning the ball. And Steve Sarkisian did talk about that in his post-game press conference about how Deshaun Jameson has really always been viewed as a weapon in special teams as a returner because he's so quick. And, Texas fans have watched him. I think he's had a few house calls, I'm pretty sure, but if not, at least close to it. And so, for him to go through and, show that he's been a versatile, special teams player, that was instrumental. And it's kind of ironic, Chip, when you think about when we talked to Jeff Banks earlier before fall camp started, the special teams coordinator, he talked about how Keelan Robinson, they're not as concerned about using Keelan Robinson as a specialist, because number one, he is one of the best special teams players that he felt they have on the team. He's just like ruthless out there. And number two, because of the running back depth being so strong, that they were like, yeah, we can set, Keelan Robinson loose, and look what happens. First special teams play of the season, he scoops and scores a touchdown that Deshaun Jameson had blocked. So it was a good start from there. Obviously, Chip, the first offensive series, the first defensive series was solid too. I don't want to overlook that. First offensive series was a forgettable series, I would say. But, Quinn Ewers had he went 0 for 2 with an interception. That was a really poor decision, I would say, a freshman mistake that you saw in the first series. But he, according to Steve Sarkisian, kept his even-keeled nature coming out of it, didn't let it really shake him. And then, he goes on to finish 16 of 24 for 225 yards and 2 touchdowns. So, it wasn't perfect, I would say, Chip, but I think that there was a lot of positive takeaways that Texas can use to build for the future. May not be next week against Alabama, but there were some positive signs, I think, in this week one opener. What was your biggest takeaways?
Yeah, I totally agree with you. By the way, we talked about Shane Buechele's 2016 numbers being a good measuring stick for Quinn Ewers, and that Shane Buechele threw for 2 touchdowns with 1 interception in his debut against Notre Dame back in 2016. Quinn Ewers, 2 touchdowns, 1 interception in his debut. And Taylor, yeah, I think let's start there with Quinn Ewers. Obviously, there's a lot to get into with Quinn Ewers. His second pass as a Longhorn was a terrible decision, as you said, into traffic. I mean, there were 3 Texas receivers surrounded by 4 ULM defenders. So I'm not quite sure what Quinn Ewers was thinking, but obviously there are scripted plays. He's probably been thinking about that play and, I can squeeze it in there. He couldn't. He gets intercepted, and it leads to a field goal for ULM. And fortunately, because of that special teams touchdown we just talked about, Texas had a 7-3 lead after ULM turns that interception into a field goal. But what you loved about Quinn Ewers after that was he completed 8 straight passes at one point, including a fourth down conversion. He had 2 fourth down pass conversions. He had a 3rd down conversion to Gunnar Helm. He had the 19-yard touchdown pass to Jatavian Sanders. And Jatavian Sanders is the other revelation on this offense tonight. He was the leading receiver. He was the wow factor in the receiving game. People will be like, oh man, what happened to Jordan Whittington and Xavier Worthy? Well, it was a pretty vanilla game plan because they've got Alabama next week. They're not going to show all their good stuff with their, I mean, they did throw a couple deep shots to Worthy. They didn't connect. There was a lot of catch and run tonight. Casey Kane had the longest play of the game, and it was a catch and run for 43 yards. There was a point where Quinn Ewers was running, extending the play, and Jatavian Sanders was blocking and then ended up like 2 yards from him, and he just flicked the ball to him, and Jatavian Sanders ran down the field for a nice gain. And probably the best pass of the game was that 25-yard seam route from Quinn Ewers to Jatavian Sanders with the defender's hand right in the way. It was a tiny window. Great throw, great catch. And the next play, Bijan Robinson runs in a jaw-dropping 9-yard touchdown run in which he, makes a defensive lineman miss. He jukes a defensive back. He stiff arms a linebacker, gets in to the end zone, with defenders bouncing off of him left and right. It was amazing. So you had big plays from Quinn Ewers after the interception. He settled down. He got it going. Jatavian Sanders looks like the guy with the best hands on the team, Taylor. Bijan Robinson, Roschon Johnson, Jonathan Brooks all score. In fact, Roschon Johnson's first carry of the game was a 16-yard touchdown run. All that guy does is make plays. And I thought the freshman offensive lineman, Kelvin Banks, Cole Hudson, looked good. Kelvin Banks limped off the field for one play, came back in, and a few plays later is a fourth down completion where he and Hayden Connor combined to pick up a stunt by ULM, and it allows Quinn Ewers enough time to complete that fourth down pass. So I thought there was a lot of good things about the offense tonight.
I agree with you. And I think that baby steps with the offensive line, and honestly, probably a little bit with Quinn Ewers as well, is what you should expect. You hope for bigger things, but you should expect probably baby steps. And I would say that the offense, I haven't, I have a Pro Football Focus account. I haven't had a chance to look at the detailed stats. As Chip said, we're recording right now at 12:40 a.m. on Sunday, so after the game. But I did feel like the offensive line, there weren't those issues where in the past where you're just like, oh my gosh, and it just seems to be like a common occurrence with Texas offensive lines in recent years. I didn't really see that. I will say one thing, Chip, when the offensive line, there was a play, I believe it was in the fourth. It was in the second half. I know that. I think it was in the third, like late third, fourth quarter. But Christian Jones, number 93 on ULM's defense, had got after Hudson Card. It was when Hudson Card came into the game, sacked him, and he kind of, celebrated a little bit over Hudson Card. And Christian Jones came in there and pushed him out of the way. And the number 93 on ULM kind of got in Christian Jones, pushed him back. Well, the next play, if you watch Christian Jones on that play, he went after 93, got 93 to the ground and kept going after him. And I saw that and I was like, finally, there is some dog in the offensive line play. Because there were so many times last season where I feel like the quarterbacks, Texas quarterbacks, both Hudson Card and Casey Thompson, were getting hit. And it was like, the offensive line is like, oh, good play. Let's pick you up and go. It's like, no, they should be the meanest people on the field. I was very happy with that. It was totally a random thought. I said something to Jeff Howe. He was sitting next to me in the press box. And I was like, finally, and of Christian Jones. I was glad to see him not only just push the guy out of the way, but follow up with the next play and just maul him and continue to maul him after he celebrated over the quarterback. That to me is what you want to see in the offensive line. The fact that Christian Jones, being the veteran guy, kind of the guy that everyone probably is like, oh, when's he going to be overtaken by a freshman, as a starting position or starting player? I like seeing that. I like seeing that type of dog mentality. But when you talk about the younger players, I feel like the offensive line as a whole, I'll have to go back and rewatch the game, intently. But I do feel like the offensive line, the starting offensive line as a whole, did their jobs probably better than I would have expected them to, Chip.
Yeah, I agree. I thought Kelvin Banks and Cole Hudson handled themselves well. They need to finish blocks better. I think that's sort of the nature of a high school mentality, that if I just get in the way of my guy for a couple seconds, then the play will unfold and we'll make yards. That doesn't happen in college. If you don't finish your guy, there's a real good chance he's going to end up back in the play, making the play. But some real positives about the offense. But Taylor, we've been talking all off season that this season was going to be made or broken by the Texas defense and whether or not it could improve against the run, because last year Texas gave up 5.2 yards per carry, second worst in school history. And tonight, outside of a garbage time 23-yard rushing touchdown, Texas, for the most part, had limited ULM to 71 yards rushing. Now, they did end up giving up 92 yards rushing on 41 carries. That's 2.2 yards per carry. And look, ULM has an experienced offense. They had 8 starters back. And look, it's not a great team. It went 4-8 last year, but the most experience was on the offensive side. You wanted to see this Texas defense shut them down. And until total garbage time in the final 3 minutes of the game, when that 23-yard rushing touchdown occurred, I thought that the defense did swarm. I thought we saw DeMarvion Overshawn making plays. Barron Sorrell made he had I thought he deserved credit for 2 sacks. They gave him a sack and a half and gave the other half to Ovi Agofu. But I liked what Baron Sorrell was doing. And then my guy, Jalen Gilbo, gets the pressure that leads to the hurried throw and the deflected pass that Deshaun Jameson grabs and turns into a pick six. I saw Jalen Gilbo all over the place. He got the start tonight at nickel. As I said in the Insider, he was a co-starter with Jahdae Barron. I think Gilbo is going to be a star. He showed no fear in his performance tonight. And, I loved all the substitution. I mean, everybody outside of Jaleel Billingsley and Ajayi Hall and Alfred Collins, it seemed, played in this game. Billingsley, as we reported in the Insider, suspended. Steve Sarkisian confirmed that, said it's a 6-game suspension over an NCAA issue while he was at Alabama last year. Ajayi Hall back with the team, but did not play. He was dressed, but did not play. And Alfred Collins sat out with an injury. So everyone else, it seems, played, Taylor. And I just thought the defense, they did swarm. They made plays, big plays, and there was a little bit of pass rush, and there was some run defense. So those are the two things they were terrible at last year, and it was better. Now here comes Alabama.
Yeah, and that's what I was going to say. Like you take wins where you can. I think, especially on the defensive side. Well, especially for Texas in general. Let's we talk about ULM being a 4-8 team. Texas 5-7. I mean, both were sitting at home when bowl games were going on. Yeah, so you want to see progress on both sides of the ball, obviously. But I think with the defense was such an up and down experiment. I almost feel like last season. So seeing it kind of play more as a cohesive unit. Steve Sarkisian's been talking about that throughout the offseason. And I'll be the first to say, I'm like, that sounds great. It also sounded great last year when you were talking about the defense, positives about the defense, and look at what happened. But I feel like you did kind of see that a little bit. Now, I'm still kind of taking it, Chip, with a little bit of a grain of salt, just because of the fact you have to consider the opponent a bit. But still, I feel like if the defense is on the same page, you're almost certainly going to get a better product as a whole, I feel like. And if you don't, then it's like, then Texas clearly did not recruit the right guys. But I don't think that's the case. I think that Texas has a lot of talent. There's 35 new players on this team. You mentioned Jalen Gilbo. He was a guy before his suspension back in winter conditioning, that was really standing out, catching the attention. At the time, everyone thought that he was going to take over the starting role from Deshaun Jameson. Obviously, he had that suspension, but it led to him kind of filling a different need, and Jameson kind of answering the call of, being almost overpassed by a true freshman. And then he steps up and has, from what we heard, an incredible offseason, one of the best fall camps, was making plays, had the leading interceptions in fall camp, all of that. So altogether, I feel like what we, at least from the small glimpse that we did see against ULM, what we've been hearing from Steve Sarkisian and the players kind of came to fruition a little bit. And that to me is a good first sign, Chip. I'm not going to say that it's going to be the same next week. I just don't know. I think that I'm still a little in the show me, don't tell me, but it's really good to kind of, after all of our years covering Texas football and college football in general, when you hear things in the offseason and then you see the opposite on the field, it's like, I can't trust anything that you say, like nothing, And so I did feel like we saw some of the positive glimpses from the defense that everybody was talking about inside the program and, to the media throughout the offseason. And I feel like you have to take that as a positive step for the future. Now you want to see it continue, obviously, but still, I feel like that deserves some credit there.
Yeah. Yeah. And we saw DeMarvion Overshawn in that strong side linebacker role, rushing when they were down near the goal line. Texas had a 4-man line, and Overshawn outside of that 4-man line, rushing, beat the guard inside. I don't know why they didn't call it a sack, the quarterback had just like gone through his play action fake, and Overshawn just ambushed him for a 6-yard loss. And that was after the Quinn Ewers interception, and that forced ULM to kick a field goal because they had 1st and goal at the 5. They ended up with 3rd and goal from the 2. And then that's when Overshawn, came through on that rush, dropped the quarterback for a 6-yard sack. They ended up kicking a 25-yard field goal. But we saw a little bit. Now, this was a vanilla game plan from Texas. There's supposed to be a lot more coming next week against Alabama. We've heard, little rumblings that Gary Patterson's been working on this game, trying to come up with ways to flummox Heisman Trophy winner Bryce Young and this Alabama offense. And so there's all that we have to look forward to a week from today, Taylor. But I did think there were some good things. Now, okay, if we're going to nitpick, obviously the Quinn Ewers interception, Isaac Pearson, my man, had a tough night tonight. He was the holder on the field goal attempt that Bert Auburn shanked and just squibbed, really, because Isaac Pearson dropped the snap, tried to get it down. It was way too late. Auburn just kind of, scribbled it off to the left. And then later in the game, Isaac Pearson drops a punt snap, ends up running and trying to punt. But that's first game stuff. It'll calm down. I mean, Isaac Pearson getting his first chance to really be the guy. So some nitpicks here and there. Jalen Ford did not have a tackle, Taylor, into the 4th quarter. And that was a concern because he is the middle linebacker. Now, again, Texas played well against the run. I don't have the stats up right in front of me to see if Jalen Ford finished with a tackle or not, but
I've got them here. Let me see.
As the starting middle linebacker, I figured he should be in on more plays, but it was Overshawn leading the team with 8 tackles and Barron Sorrell with 6. You got the stat?
I do not. Sorry, I'm trying to see if there. Yeah, he's not even listed in the defensive stats. So no, he did not get any type of stat on defense.
That's
not
crazy.
Just tackles, like nothing.
Now, listen, I got to go back and watch the film. Maybe he was where he was supposed to be on every single play, plugging a hole, forcing a run to bounce. I know he missed a couple tackles. I saw. So he needs to settle down because they need him to be a difference maker. Again, Diamante Tucker Dorsey got a lot of playing time tonight. He's the one who's allowed Overshawn to move into that pass rushing role. But a ton of guys played. I mean, you name it, they played. It was everybody from Ethan Burke, the freshman, to Prince Dorba, you name it. And so
Charles Wright got in there.
Charles Wright, ladies and gentlemen. He wasn't even the 3rd team quarterback last year. He was behind walk-on Ben Ballard. So Charles Wright trying to get his game going. Hudson Card did get in the game, Taylor. It was rough for Hudson Card, although he did have a touchdown pass. And Jonathan Brooks looked good. And so let's real quick turn our attention to Alabama, and we'll have a ton more on Alabama this week, obviously. But it was interesting in the post game, Taylor, because of course every player was asked about that game and what's the mindset. And I thought Jatavian Sanders said it best. He said, we have to have the best week of practice of our lives because we can easily get blown out if we don't execute our game plan. And I think that is cold, hard truth, folks.
Yeah.
And you want to hear that from your redshirt freshman tight end, that he sounds like a guy who's ready to yell to all of his teammates, hey, if we don't get on point this week with everything in practice, we could get blown out here. And so I think that's a realistic look at this picture, Taylor. Alabama is a juggernaut. The Heisman Trophy winner at quarterback, Will Anderson and Dallas Turner, pass rushers who combined for over 25 sacks last year. Will Anderson, a Heisman finalist, and I'm a Heisman Trophy voter. I'm watching this guy up close and personal on Saturday at 11 against Texas because I just want to see for myself just how dominant this guy is and what makes him special. But there's a lot coming Texas's way next Saturday at 11 a.m.
Yeah, there is. And I think that the added attention on this game is going to make it even bigger. The reality is Texas football has really not been in the consistent big game environment, for several years. I mean, Alabama, it's like they've been there. It's the culture is from the experience a lot of times, I think. And obviously
they want to win the national championship because they felt like they would have won it if their receiver Jamison Williams didn't get hurt.
Yeah, and Nick Saban called that a rebuilding year when they finished as a runner-up. I mean, like that's the difference of where the two programs are. But I do think that the additional attention of College Game Day, coming to Austin, I imagine the Fox Big Noon kickoff show is going to be on the scene too. For sure, the lead broadcast team is. I have not looked into the details of see if that will be there too. But there's already been so much attention on this game. Last time Texas Alabama faced each other was in the 2009 season, the BCS national title game. That was Nick Saban's first national championship win at Alabama as the head coach of Alabama. And then, I mean, just the storylines are endless, honestly, when you look at this matchup. It's been that way. This has been a game that everybody's kind of the marquee game on the Texas football schedule, one of the marquee games of the college football non-conference season for 2022. But Texas has not been in a position where that's been the case consistently where Alabama has. So I think that what you're going to learn a lot about Texas is really how much the culture change is actually taking effect. Now, I'm not going to say if Texas loses this game, it means that the culture is poor or anything like that. I'm not saying anything along those lines. What I am saying is when you face a team like Alabama, there's going to be struggles. Obviously, I don't think anybody's expecting Texas to win, but what you don't want to see is some of those season, the issues from last season kind of creep on over like, oh gosh, we're about to get rolled here. And then they do, and so I think that that's probably going to be something to watch if you're a Texas fan. And if you see a team that is playing together against Alabama, even if they lose by 2 touchdowns or, whatever, 3 touchdowns or something like that, if you see a team that's cohesive and not fracturing and, splintering when the adversity strikes, you have to take those little moral victories a little bit as a win because you're not in Alabama. You're not a powerhouse college football program right now. They historically have been, but they're not right now. And so there's going to be a ton of pressure on Texas, probably more pressure on Texas than, well, I don't know, maybe not, maybe more pressure on Alabama because everyone's going to expect Alabama to probably steamroll, especially with, Nick Saban's track record against his former assistant coaches. There's plenty of former assistant coaches on this team that have coached under Nick Saban at Alabama too. So there's a lot just going on with this game, Chip. But I mean, I want to ask you, what if you are watching this? I don't think you're going to expect Texas to. You're probably hoping that they cover, and that's like a good day for Texas, I would imagine. But what is something that you are looking for that you think will be a sign, positive or negative, if you see it come next Saturday?
Yeah, I want to see this team answer. They're going to get punched in the mouth. And I thought it was interesting. Jatavian Sanders, who was a quote machine after the game against ULM, said that Keelan Robinson has already told him, we have to punch them in the mouth. We have to throw the first punch. And look, Steve Sarkisian has done a good job of getting his teams off to good starts. We saw it last year against Oklahoma State, Baylor. They couldn't finish. So let's see if Texas can get off to a good start like they did tonight. I mean, the blocking of that punt, they saw something in ULM's scheme that they felt like they could exploit. They absolutely did it. They came after that punt. They blocked it. They scored a touchdown. Steve Sarkisian's teams have gotten off to good starts. Can they throw a punch and then keep throwing punches? Because we know Alabama is relentless, and there's a lot of fresh faces out there for Texas, including the quarterback, Quinn Ewers, who handled adversity against Louisiana-Monroe. How does he handle it when it's Will Anderson and Dallas Turner and his freshman offensive linemen are going, whoa, I'm in graduate school right now in football. And it's just the first quarter. So, Steve Sarkisian's got a game plan, all of that. And then, of course, defensively, you got to find a way to rattle Bryce Young. I mean, and I've said what you said, cover, just cover and look good doing it. Fight to the end. Build. You got to build on your failures so that you get tougher and you get smarter and you get calluses that help you win games down the road, because the Big 12's wide open. And who knows if Texas can really get better in a hurry, no matter what happens next Saturday, who knows? They got weapons. They got weapons on offense. There's no doubt about it. And Quinn Ewers can throw it from any angle. He's smart. He's improvisational. He got a little greedy there at the beginning, but he handled it. And now let's see, because there's a whole bunch of adversity coming next Saturday, how they handle it. And can they grow from it and not splinter like we saw over time in that season last year where it spiraled into a 6-game losing streak. So let's see how they handle the big stage. No one's expecting them to win. I think a lot of people are expecting them to get blown out, because if you turn the ball over against Alabama, they turn it into points typically. And that can get you down. And so it's going to be fun. It's going to be wild. We know Texas will try to throw deep. We know Bryce Young can throw deep. And we know Quinn Ewers will try to throw deep. He tried against ULM, couldn't connect, but a lot of big catch and run plays, and Texas, 52 points, 1 touchdown by the defense, 1 touchdown by special teams. So what is that? 38 points from the offense. It's a good day at the office.
Yeah, no, it definitely is, for sure. And let's be honest, UTSA looked pretty dang good too today, and they did lose to Houston, but a 3 overtime loss of a team that's supposed to be rebuilding. So this non-conference slate for Texas is not going to get much easier even after Alabama, I don't think, Chip.
Yeah, I mean, Frank Harris, the 8-year quarterback at UTSA, he's going to watch the film and realize he had a tight end wide open on that 2-point conversion that he missed, that ended up being the last play of the game in triple overtime. But Houston's ranked number 24, went 12-2 last year. So did UTSA. But yeah, that is not going to be a gimme at all. So it's you got to have that big growth between the first and second game. Let's see what this Texas Longhorns team can improve on, and from a vanilla game plan in a 52-10 win over a 4-8 Sun Belt team from last year, with the number 1 team in the country coming into Austin, Texas, along with Flo Rida Taylor. Flo Rida.
Jeans. Has he had a song since then?
I don't think so.
Yeah.
But Flo Rida was announced tonight as the Longhorn City Limits band for the Alabama game. So, I mean, it's going to be big.
It
Fox,
definitely
ESPN, Flo Rida, and Horns 24/7. We'll all be there.
We will.
All right. Hey, thanks for for dialing in, and make sure that you are locked in to Horns 24/7, the podcasts, the Horns 24/7 YouTube channel. We're going to be blowing out the Alabama coverage this week, so just keep tuning in. You will not be disappointed, ladies and gentlemen. Thanks for hanging out with us. For Taylor Estes, I am Chip Brown. Until next time, we'll see you over at horns247.com. Everybody stay safe and keep the faith.